You are now watching Mugen TV Game Reviews.
I was never a fan of the earlier NieR games released on the PS3. It was something about the game design that simply turned me away from the series. But what really kept me entirely away from the series was the fact that this series was also a tie-in with Square Enix's other strange title called Dragon Guard. But all that began to change when NieR Automata was revealed, and I was instantly blown away by the gameplay and its visuals. I bought the game at launch but never opened it from its plastic till a year later in 2018. I had to say to myself, why did I wait this long to play such an amazing game? Earth was suddenly invaded by aliens, who unleashed a weapon known as machine lifeforms that annihilated human civilization, reducing its population to a point of almost extinction. The remaining human survivors had left Earth to seek refuge on the moon. Thousands of years later, around 5204 AD, man had created an army of androids and sent them to Earth to fight their battles. This is where our main protagonist 2B come into play. She is a special unit known as the Aura Forces. She was designed alongside of military B models in order to break the stalemate on the battlefield between the humans and the machine lifeforms. Then there is NieR, who is also a reconnaissance android who eventually runs into 2B during a mission that eventually ties them into a conspiracy that I won't spoil in this review. This sci-fi anime plot is pretty intriguing and will also leave you quite confused along the way, but what's interesting about the story is the fact is that every player will gain a different understanding of the game's philosophy, which is quite fun for discussion with other players and fans of this game. For starters, NieR Automata visuals are beautiful and the game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. The environments range from deserts, factories, ruined cities, and even forest locations. I found myself rotating the camera around 2B and NieR just to get a grand scope of each location. This complements the addictive gameplay as well. It's been a while since I've last played an action RPG, so this game had really put my reflexes to the test. I don't even know where to begin to explain the gameplay of NieR Automata. I can say one thing for sure, the game definitely doesn't hold your hand. At the start of the game, you are thrown into a flying mecha sequence where one of your teammates died from a sneak attack from behind. All the game does is display the buttons for controlling your flying mecha, and the rest is up to you to discover. This is what I like most about the gameplay. There aren't much or a bunch of tutorials that hold your hand from the start to finish. The player has room to figure out how to control 2B and create the most effective strategies during battles. Now the gameplay is quite interesting because it's divided into different gameplay styles. First you have your traditional action RPG, where you can perform devastating flashy combos on your opponents. Then you have your top-down shooter sequence, similar to games like R-Type. Then there's a 2D side-scrolling sequence that plays like a platformer, and the game blends these elements together quite well. Now, the combat system is addictive. You have 4 different weapon classes. These classes are small weapon, heavy weapon, spears, and bracers. These weapon classes can be mapped to the square and triangle buttons. Each class affects 2B's combat performance. For example, you're only given 2 weapon sets. Each weapon set you can equip 2 weapons. So I can equip a small weapon and a heavy weapon for set 1, and then a small weapon and a spear for set 2. And during battle, I can switch between the weapon sets by pressing up and down on the directional pad to extend my combos. And you feel like a badass each and every time you come up with different ways to finish off your opponents. Next, you have pods in which you can equip on 2B and NieR. Now, these pods are pretty much your support character. Simply by pressing and holding down the R1 button, you can fire from your pod, and that's where things get a bit more complex. Not only can you hold down the R1 button to control your pod attacks, you can still combo with the square and triangle button at the same time. This game really tests your reflexes and multitasking abilities during combat. Your pod also has special abilities that can be equipped and used by pressing the L1 button. These special attacks along with your weapons can be leveled up by farming and grinding resources through destroying or locating them on ground during your travels. Also, by pressing R1 and the jump button, you can use your pod as an assist to attack your opponent, and even use to extend your jump in order to attain access to hard to reach platforms. Then finally, you have the chip system. These chips are pretty much programs that allows 2B to operate. Your chips are limited to the available slots that you have. The more OP the chip is, the more space that it takes up on your slots. But you can simply upgrade your slots as you progress through the game. There are chips that can also increase the amount of XP you earn after defeating an enemy, while there are other chips that increase your attack or defense, and the most useful one of them all is a chip that recovers your health for each enemy that you defeat. So, how's the progression system, you ask? Well, NieR Automata is an open world sandbox game, which the areas are all pretty much open to you for you to explore if you are strong enough to pretty much survive the enemies you encounter along the way. There are plenty for you to do because there are quests for you to obtain by talking to people at the resistance camp, and these quests also provide backstory for characters. It introduces you to other interesting aspects of the world that the main story doesn't provide for you. Not only that, these quests also brings up dialogue between 2B and 9S, which is quite funny and serious at the same time.
Man, these chores are a real pain in the butt, huh?
The Resistance is a valuable ally to Yorha. By helping them, we also help ourselves. So no, I don't think they're a pain.
Yeah.
Now, the game also has 26 different endings, which encourage you to play multiple times. It takes roughly around 20 hours to complete the game with 2B, and then your second playthrough you will play as 9S and see the story through his perspective, along with another character in which I won't spoil. The story unfolds more each time you complete the game, so you will be playing this game for quite a while. Now, the game doesn't have an instant save system. You must defeat enemies that jam the access point, and once you do that, you will also be able to save in the area in which the access point is located. There are also towns to visit, as well as hidden areas that have special goodies you can pick up during the questing. What I enjoy most about this is that when there's a quest that you have to fight defected Yora android that you have to hunt down, because these characters that you face have the capabilities to fight similar to 2B compared to the machine life forms that you face regularly during the game. They also drop their cool weapons that you can level up and equip as a set for 2B. Last but not least, what I really enjoy most is the game soundtrack. The music by far is some of the best I've heard in a long time in a video game. It's beautiful and quite soothing to the ears, and it often reminds me of Ghost in the Shell, and the whole tone feels like it belongs on an anime block of Adult Swim. I can literally work on YouTube content while listening to this game's soundtrack, especially the track that plays during the ruined city. Overall, NieR Automata is a solid action RPG with an interesting plot that will leave you with your own interpretation of what the game's story means to the player. If you are into open world RPGs with tons of quests and a robust progression system, then NieR Automata is definitely a game worth checking out. I give this game a solid 9 out of 10. This is MugenLord, and don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and press the bell for notifications on upcoming content from me. This is MugenLord, I'm signing off. See you game fiends later. Peace out.